Hey everyone, and welcome back to Inventing Construction. I'm Ross Griffin, and today we're going to talk to David Egan, the CEO and founder of WeGroup. Our topic today is creating a company and the real and honest truth. The subtopics are why David started WeGroup, what are the greatest challenges he found over the last number of years, what is the return in all the effort in creating a company, and what should people do if they're interested in starting their own business. We touch on our experiences in running a company, and as well as the good and the bad and the ugly about being a startup. And David, it's great to have you today, and perhaps maybe you can introduce yourself, give a little bit on your past, your present, and potentially your future.
David Egan's my name. I'm co-founder and CEO of WeGroup. We're a digital project management organisation, and we're supporting clients with project management, project controls, and construction technology implementations throughout both Ireland and Europe and the Middle East very recently. So I'm very, very happy to be here. Thanks very much for
we're in Limerick today, which is a special. So our Danish colleagues came over with all their equipment. It takes some hours to set it up, apparently, but minutes to take it down. And but it's very nice here today. Looking out on the Shannon as the water passes us by. But David,
I'm a Clare man now.
You're a Clare man.
We can't be celebrating too much about Limerick.
Looking across the Shannon at Clare.
Yeah,
there we go. It's
yeah.
lovely. It's lovely.
So we've got Clare in the background, but we're in Limerick, so it's not too bad.
Yeah. But everybody will see the background only, so it's all right.
They will.
But tell me, let's go back then a bit to WeGroup and WePlan. I think it was it originally. When and why did you start it? What kind of crazy idea did you have in your head?
My journey is very unique in terms of what happened and why it happened and what brought me to, I suppose, sitting here today. And while we're starting, thanks very much for inviting us on. The reason why is because we don't really look back. You're always looking at what's next, what's in the future, what happened yesterday, how do we go to today? So I was kind of sitting down last night thinking to myself, geez, how did I get to where we are, or what gets me to this seat here today? So I really do appreciate that. So yeah, my story is unique. I was studying a biomedical engineering in college, and then my cousin passed away in a car crash, and I took a year out of college, and I was kind of just trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and that brought me to working in Regeneron in Limerick. Regeneron's a pharmaceutical biotech facility in Limerick, and I was working with an E&I contractor at the time. I started off as a summer job, rushing the floors, managing the time clocks, and the overall, I guess, operations, supporting project managers at the time. I then very quickly moved into QA, QC and turnover, supporting with takeoffs, etc. The guys had an idea that I had a head on my shoulders. So they brought us down to the head office, and then I supported with estimating, project controls, cost management and planning. And it didn't take too long until we were out in Belgium, in France, in different spots on different projects. So huge opportunity to learn at a young age. So that moved on for a couple of years, and I hadn't a degree, so I had to go back and figure out what I had to get that. Paper is very important in terms of a qualification, and to recommend that for anyone in the industry. Make sure you get your papers. So I went back to college, and at that time, it was either working a bar, part-time, this is the honest truth, or it was, can I do something in terms of a consultant? So what I did was I set up WePlan at the time. I have my business plan at home from 8 years ago, written down. There's only about 10 pages on a small little notebook, but it's
great
there,
to look
it's
back
kept,
though,
right? And so that's how it started. And I was then, word of mouth got me through where I needed to be at the start. I probably 5 clients within around 6 or 7 months, which was really good. Great. But like I wasn't, we weren't a large organisation. No. You were a consultancy. We had a couple of people working with us at the time, 2 people at the time. That's how we kind of started off. And my first office was in my bedroom. My second office I rented off my aunt. She charged me €50 a week.
Excellent. And, thanks, Auntie.
And Diane. But and look, now we've a lovely spot in Limerick. So like things progressed throughout.
But so was it out of necessity then that you started? Like I guess if you go back 8 years ago, we're kind of at 2013, 2014. From our international listeners, Ireland was from a construction industry perspective was coming out of a very bad place. And I guess we hadn't really recovered here yet.
Yeah, so for me, there was a shortage of skilled labour at the time within the industry. And it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure that one out. especially within a project controls and project management, and even especially again within a pharmaceutical orientation.
Yeah.
And when you were able to identify that there was a market need,
Yeah.
I was very fortunate. I was young,
Yeah.
so I didn't have a mortgage.
Yeah.
I didn't have kids.
Independence. Yeah.
So like I had the freedom to say, if all else fails,
yeah.
it's still a success because I learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to be able to work off the cuff with the fact that
Yeah.
if all else fail, I'll learn, and I'll move on. I'll do something else if that's going to be the case. And that was the foundation, and that's what gave me the courage to do what I did at the start.
Yeah. So, in your perception, the level of personal risk for you was quite low in that sense, in comparison to lots of people sitting at home listening to us now, and considering this if they have dependents and mortgages, etc., etc.
Yeah, and look, if you are sitting at home and you do have mortgages and you do have kids, there's definitely strategic ways that you can still go about it.
100%.
You can figure out, the financial constraints, the time that you've got allowed, how you'd focus on the market. Like, if you're starting a business, that's the first thing you got to think about is, what am I passionate about?
Yeah.
Okay, what's missing on the market?
Yeah.
What's my unique selling point?
Yeah.
And then you can figure out the time that needs to be invested associated with getting it off the ground.
So WePlan, were you focusing originally then on the planning aspect within pharmaceuticals and so on when you started up?
Yeah, so we focused on planning, risk management, project controls, and supporting from a commercial and claims perspective. Okay. But for me, like, we weren't targeting multinational organizations or billion-dollar jobs.
No.
It was the small consultancies that didn't know what project controls were. Yeah. And then you were able to help them understand the efficiencies of planning, how you support them in a cost-effective manner. Yeah. And then they were able to, they were understanding their contractual opportunity associated with setting up their project controls in the correct manner. Yeah. Like, that's the end game too, is to be able to protect your client.
I still find it amazing that the majority of clients really that are controllers of these huge investments don't really have the construction knowledge to control these huge investments. And construction is a commodity item, so they're purchasing one number building in the same way as they'd purchase one number car, one number piece of machinery. And the complexities around construction are kind of unknown. And that to me is just, it's phenomenal, really.
But it's the beauty and the danger of momentum, I think, that can really affect, I suppose, those investments. Because the minute you get into a large investment and you haven't structured up front, you then get into that whole out of control, upper and lower control limits, out of control if you're 10% above, etc. Yeah. But like the minute you get out of control for a period of time, it's extremely hard, and it takes 4, 5, 6 times the effort to actually get that back on track. Yeah. And that's even for myself. Like, I wasn't called to support every job at the start.
No.
So like, I often got called when the job is 60% complete, saying,
"We have a problem.
Oh, we have a bit of a problem here. Can we? Can you come and have a look at that?" And that becomes that's a more difficult chore, if that makes sense, in comparison to
being involved from the beginning, setting the process up, putting in the steps in place, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a real challenge with our industry, unfortunately, is that when the house is burning, the calls are then taken. Whereas we talk about in our other podcasts, if you're investing as a client a little more upfront to get the advice and the consultancies in place to put that strategy in place, you have a better probability of success in that project.
It's hard because the investor's end, the investor is buying a physical asset.
Yeah.
We're supporting them with the delivery of the physical asset. So in terms of the journey to get there, we did build in a traditional way 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And the way we build now, it's not very different.
No.
Although we are trying to tweak and become more predictable down the line using data and digitalization, automation and technology. Yeah. But the people that are investing aren't normally, they're not focused on that.
No.
So it's how we can raise the awareness of the benefit of that, so that they can understand that, like, data-driven decisions are more predictable in terms of an outcome
than subjective or emotion decisions.
Yeah. But again, it's a hard look. It's a hard debate in the fact that an investor buys a physical asset at the end. He's buying a hotel, a house, a pharmaceutical facility, data center, whatever that is. The journey that we get there, I guess that's up to us to make sure that we can progress the industry and make enough noise in the industry so that people understand the value.
Yeah. But it still amazes me, as you say, we're building in the same way for 100 years, etc. I guess our buildings are they're more complex now, and we want them quicker and faster, and so on and so forth, health and safety, etc. But it still amazes me that lack of understanding and knowledge on the decision maker side when it comes to these large projects. I often see many clients approaching these multi-billion the same way as they'd approach their one-off house or their extension in that idea. What often we hear is, we just get the contractor in, they'll do it. And we're saying, well, hang on a second, that's a great idea. Bring them to the table. But you need to have an understanding of what the process is to have the discussion with them. We're all for having the stakeholder groups engaged as early as possible, etc. But the contractual obligations between parties needs to be understood before that happens.
Well, they need to be clear, and objectives and boundaries need to be set, and everyone needs to know their role and responsibility within that. And those fundamentals are the same as starting a business as they are as delivering a job. Yeah. As they are in natural relationships, like people need to understand the boundaries between people. Like,
100%. Over the last number of years then, and particularly in that startup phase, I guess is what, 0 to 5 years. Would you consider yourself still a startup?
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
Still a startup?
Like, we've changed our vision in terms of what we're trying to do when we look at the sustainability of the business and how we can make an impact within the industry in Ireland afar. And we've definitely changed what we're doing. Yeah. So, like, we're a startup, 100%. There's no denying that, and I love it. And that's what I love about where I am today.
We have this exact same discussion in Cosmos. Like, we're 5 years old next week, and we're going into this Cosmos 2.0, which is the next phase, if you like.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you. And then we were considering ourselves, are we now not a startup anymore? Have we transitioned into something different? What is that? So I guess my question is it startup 2.0 or version kind of 1.1 or...
No, it's not. It's for me, it's not, like, because, like, although I've had a business that started off as WePlan, transitioned into WeGroup over the last 8 years. Yeah. Like, I would have very much considered ourselves a consultancy at the start, and like, I was a young lad, like, I didn't know exactly what direction we were going to take. Well, thanks very much. I still am, absolutely, but I was even younger. Yeah. And I didn't know what direction we were going to take. Like, so it became a period of time where you needed to, ship, no ship in terms of industry, go, no go. What was the plan? Yeah. And, Omar has a huge impact in terms of what I was doing and the value in terms of what I was doing, and teamwork and sense of culture, belonging, and what the overall approach is, allowed us to sit down, come together and think we actually can do something within the industry that's quite new, unique and different.
And so the challenge...
Startup. Absolutely a startup.
Startup still, yeah, excellent, thank you. But the challenges kind of in that initial period, I'd say prior to you beginning, and then that initial period, and maybe even up to now. Oh yeah,
absolutely. Still probably more challenges now than we did at the start, right? In terms of what we were trying to do. Challenges, a huge challenge obviously we have in the industry is you're competing with large organizations, so retention of resources associated with that is huge. Yeah. It's very, very, very difficult. Developing a culture within your organization is probably the most important thing any founder, co-founder, or business owner will have. And the reason why is everyone needs to understand, like, that there is a community in terms of what you're trying to deliver, and they need to understand the bigger picture. So, like, I would say over the last 6 months, we've a huge amount of time and money invested in terms of our cultural engagement program within all our employees for start off on the right foot in terms of where we're going to go over the next 5 to 10 years. But that also feeds into the client engagement profile. Yeah. So how you can intertwine both client engagement and employee engagement, that's a real success, because then you understand all the, the success moments associated with your employees that have happened with your clients, and give that recognition towards the end. I think my baby at the moment in the organisation is, how we can create an engaging culture that's different, and that people come into work on. I've never worked in anywhere like this before, and that's the plan.
And you'll attract people that way, because at the end of the day, we're a people's business, right?
Yeah.
Construction's a people's business. Your business is a people's business. So is ours. And people talk. And so creating that type of culture will offer opportunities for both the business and people to come in and experience something different.
Yeah.
And I think that has been a challenge as well for us. We're in a very similar path, both of us, I would think. But really supporting the people, I think, is the biggest challenge, because, and I don't know if your experience is the same, you're trying to run a business at the same time, trying to work on projects, at the same time trying to manage clients, to get new clients, do your accounts, hire people, and to do that as a single person is just impossible.
It's a single point of failure.
Yeah, it's impossible.
And it's for me, and like in an honest and truthful manner, it was extremely beneficial for me being a single point of failure at a younger age in my career.
Okay. Yeah.
Understanding, was there a go or no go? Because the exponential value of learning within that environment was huge.
Yeah.
But then you say, managing clients, managing a business, managing projects, you can't do them all. So one thing we have definitely identified, single point of failure, is me personally, I'm coming out of projects, and being able to focus on the strategic vision of what we're trying to do and support internally. So although you're not directly involved in a project, you're going to be in the background, driving, supporting, coaching, mentoring the people who are going to be involved. And that's a real, the fact that you touched off that, because I acknowledge the fact that although it's a benefit, it was something that needed to change within a period of time to grow.
I think that is one of the hardest, because a lot of people that start up a business started from the fun,
reputation.
The fun of what they're doing as well. Like, I love doing cost management. Well, I'm more like people. I prefer people kind of thing, but cost management is what I really like, the strategy around it, all of that stuff. But setting up the business, you set it up with a technical knowledge and experience. You set it up from you working on the projects and saying, maybe there's something more from this. But you come from a technical perspective. And the biggest challenge, in my view, is transitioning out of that technical on the projects and up into the leadership role, and not having your kind of fingers in all the pies, trusting the people that you have brought into the team with the responsibility to deliver that project, to deliver that client, to engage in that certain way, to help with the different business decisions. And I honestly think that's one of the more challenging.
Yeah, well, absolutely. We have in our office, we have mugs, and they have leadership down the side, and L stands for listening, but D in leadership stands for delegation. And to be able to transfer from somebody who does everything to take that step back, to delegate to a team that they need to trust. But that comes with patient scaling, and bringing in people that you trust that can work in that environment, and then being able to delegate with them. But like it's a difficult front in terms of being involved in everything.
And the other thing that I kind of ponder on an awful lot is that idea, that vision aspect, how you transfer the same vision and enthusiasm that you have up here into the team that are now with you on this journey that you're on. How do you transfer that so that the clients that they're now engaging with see that passion, etc.?
Yes. So for us, it goes back to your cultural engagement program and your client engagement program. One thing we do is we have town halls at the end of every month.
Excellent.
And those town halls that we have at the end of every month are in-person town halls. It's just one time we kind of tell guys, we really do need you in here. Now, obviously, granted, people will be working on sites and remote environments. That's the world we're in. But each month has a specific focus. So month one might be January. New goals, new year, right? Month in March might be March for us is cultural diversity within an organisation. So that's a focus point each month. Within the focus point, then we have a critical, lateral, and technical thinking. So we then challenge people within problem-solving workshops throughout the day.
Wonderful.
internal dragons den,
Yeah.
analytical wars, that whole approach in terms of building a cultural engagement.
Yeah.
And within the day, we have our updates.
Yeah.
So we'll have a WeGroup update associated with where we are,
Yeah.
what we're doing in terms of a research perspective in
Yeah.
the industry, what we're doing from a service perspective.
Yeah.
We have a media plan and we have a technology plan.
Yeah.
And to bring people along that journey because, people are powerful,
Yeah.
and
In the right
more,
context, like give them the freedom and
absolutely.
and they'll drive.
Well, here's my thoughts. What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
And sometimes what are your thoughts before my thoughts? Because as a leader, you want to hear what they think first, so that they're not going that they're not subjected into your thoughts. So kind of speaking last in terms of that environment, so that you can really capture, the true thoughts of that knowledge pool is what I'd call it.
It's an interesting approach to it, bringing people on the journey like that. One of the big things for us would be transparency, transparency on where we are as a business, what the plan is, last month's turnover, billability, how we're doing, people's holidays coming out, vacation time, celebrating the little things like the birthdays, and whether it's the birthday, the Cosmos birthday, that type of thing, our yearly trip, we go somewhere in Europe together as a group. All of that tries to bond, and especially in the new way of working, I would say, remote working, as you say, people on the projects now, difficult to have everybody around the table, the lunch table every day in the office and to communicate that way. So you have to think a little bit abstract in order to, how do you create that culture from a remote setting,
Yeah, well, look, it's difficult, and it's difficult because of the nature of the industry that we're in. We work in a consultancy environment where you are a part of a client's team as well from a delivery perspective. So you're trying to build your own culture, respect the culture of your clients and integrate within their culture as well. Yeah. And then be able to build that back in a remote environment with your own team. But look, there's little, we have our little weekly huddles with our group of people working with different clients, and they can then cross communicate associated with similar problems that they're having. Similarly with our town halls, that's going to be a huge chance for us to bounce ideas off each other or bounce problems and learn from success and failure within each employee. Yeah.
Bringing the team together is important. Also for the team to build their own connections and confidence in each other and learn a little bit.
Well, there's nothing gives me more pleasure than hearing someone had a problem on a job and they reached out to someone else on another job because they thought that person would be good. Then they solved the problem and were able to come back with the solution, and you're going proactive initiation. Initiative. Like that's that's a reward you get from owning a business, and that's a success.
Yeah, absolutely. Self-empowerment, I think, is huge. A lot of people, I think, and again reflecting back to when you started, a lot of people when they try to start their own business will try to do it in isolation. Don't tell anybody. What about failure? The less people to know, the less the impact is on me.
Yeah.
And I'd be of the opinion the opposite. You need to tell everybody. You need to reach out and look for help and guidance and ask people that have been on the journey before. Don't shy away from it, because people love talking about the journey they've been on, so other people can learn from it.
I'm fortunate enough that when I was in a project controls environment, my buddy on every job was the project manager. So that's who I was working with. So I have had the privilege of sitting beside project managers over the last 8 years, seeing the positives, seeing the improvements, seeing the challenges, etc. But the amount of times I've sent a message to one of those project managers who may now be a managing director or an operations director, any chance of a grind?
Anything going? Can we help you with anything?
Well, not even that, but
just a chat.
Well, they know that's a pick up the phone and run an idea by them, or this is what happened. How would you go about approaching that situation? And to be able to have, people want to help. That's the thing within the industry. If you don't ask, of course you're not going to get. No. But people, lots of people have picked up the phone to me, past, current, friends, past employees, current employees, friends, and said, well, I'm going for this job, or what would you do, or will you have a look at my CV here, what are your thoughts? Or and you only love picking up the phone and having that conversation. You nearly love it too much. They're trying to get you off the phone by the end of the conversation. But you're here to help. I got help I got help throughout the years. There's no doubt about it. And I got great help, and I'm very, very fortunate for the people I've met on the journey. Very lucky, I believe, the path that I've been on.
Yeah.
You create your own luck, obviously, but I still consider myself very lucky to meet the people I've met and to be given the opportunities on each job that we've been on.
I do think there's a whole aspect of paying it forward, passing on that knowledge and experience, and hopefully people can get the most out of whatever they're trying to do, because, success, there isn't a limited amount of success out there.
No.
Again, success is also subjective, it depends on the individual and what they're at and so on.
Could be playing golf 7 days a week.
Yeah, exactly.
What I mean?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't mind that success now myself.
That leads us on to what is the return for you? We know golf 7 days a week. Okay, great. That was a quick one. Yeah.
What's the return for me?
Yeah. For setting up like WeGroup and getting involved, because it's a 24/7, 365. And there's no mistaking that. You're always on. You're always thinking. It's not like you're shut off on a Friday evening at 3 p.m. and you head away home and you don't turn on again. There's something going around in your head all weekend about, Jesus, I heard something there. What's that? Maybe we could do this.
I'd say since the day I've set up the business, I've never not checked my emails.
Yeah.
I went through my emails.
Yeah.
I went to Ecuador with my mother.
Yeah.
For a year and a half, go on holidays for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And I every morning did an hour and a half's work on the emails, just checking to see where we were. Yeah. So you can see the whole, you get caught up in it.
And consumed a little bit, I guess.
Absolutely.
As well. Yeah.
But yeah, look, the world still goes around. How only a tiny sample population within this world will know about the impact we're having. So you have to remember that as well in terms of managing your own mental health. When I think about return, I'd probably think about 3 categories of return: personal return, company and cultural return, and client return. Yeah. When I think about personal return, I'm a very driven person. Yeah. Someday, everyone going to close their eyes and they won't open again. Yeah. So you have that sense of, legacy and leaving something after you in a better position than you took it on board. Yeah, knowledge, I want to be really knowledgeable and I really want to understand the industries that I'm involved in. Yeah. And I obviously have a wealth type of drive. Like I want to be set up when I'm older that I'm comfortable. My family is comfortable. Security with my family that I grew up with, my family that I hopefully have in the future. In terms of a personal drive, in terms of a company drive, look, the cultural engagement is huge, right? There's people in our organization that walk in the door and tell us they're applying for a mortgage, and they may not be from Ireland. They could have been from a different country. Yeah. And then only last night, I'm thinking, God, they might not be here in Ireland, but for WeGroup in terms of what we're doing. Yeah, indeed. Or vice versa, they might not be applying for a mortgage, which is a huge milestone within their life. Yeah. In terms of a company kind of reward. And then finally, if I think about clients, I love pushing clients outside of their comfort zone. Yeah. Or I love just coming in the door, being on a whiteboard, sitting down with a client and they have a problem. And for me, it's an opportunity to know how you can solve that and put a robust structure, system, process in place. Yeah. That's kind of the returns that keep me motivated and driven.
I'm not sure does everybody get into setting up their own business just for that financial return. And I think it's just my personal opinion, if you are getting into business just for the financial return, it's not going to succeed. No. Because you'll miss the point of the whole human connection and the cultural aspect, is everything you just talked about in terms of WeGroup there, of setting up people and becoming connected to people. You'll miss that somewhat.
Well, that costs money.
Yeah.
And unless you're willing to invest and actually understand it, you're trying to build an organization. Yeah. You have to be able to live. You have to be able to understand that profits are going to be a lot lower than normal. Yeah. When you're going through that like norming, forming, storming phase within an organization. And for me, like, you have to understand the fact that there's an investment required here. But please God, you'll get that back in tenfolds in 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
And if not, okay, we get the knowledge of failure so that we can be successful in terms of whether it's advising someone down the line or doing something completely different but in a similar environment down the line. Because
I think you'll have an appetite for something anyway, and trial and failure are good things, you know. Again, learning is the main process here. It's a journey, it's experience, and you apply that to the next step, the next vision, whatever that might be. But it is interesting, the obviously the personal aspect to it. What's the return here? And I reflect myself on this quite a bit. What is the return? I like the journey. I like the possibilities, and being able to go, actually, let's go right. No, let's go left. So you're bringing something to the table. Let's consider it. Whereas I found in the past was that in larger organizations with the structures in place, that becomes a very difficult thing, because you need approval and you need to convince people and so on and so forth.
We had a couple of people come in the door there recently, and we were trying to manage something with data and setting up a structure, and they just passed the comment, geez, this took 4 months in the last place I was in, because of all the data and security that they had.
Yeah.
And me and Omar just laughed and said, "It's the beauty of it. Let's just go.
Yeah,
you know, what do we need? How do we do it? What's the support function? What's the process? Let's go."
The exact
and
same
you can
conversation.
move very, very, very quickly.
It's very agile.
Yeah.
You know, it's the exact same conversation I had a couple of weeks back about a new platform or software. Yeah.
But do you guys then find when you set up that you had the same vision as you have now? Or do you think your vision has changed from when you set up 5 years ago?
Yeah. I would say that in terms of what we're trying to do, the principles are the same. It's still that focus on cost and digitization of the 5D aspect, data analytics, etc. Where we're doing business and how we're doing business changed. I would say that our view of the global construction industry has changed dramatically in terms of the professionalism around our discipline and the transition from traditional to digitization. We were of the opinion that everybody was moving in this direction and that the global marketplace was shifting. Our experience in the last 5 years is that it's not. The global construction market is way behind what our experience is in digital design and construction in Denmark, for example, even when you compare that to Ireland, for example. And so suddenly we realized that it's not just a Danish market that our focus is now. It's actually the global market, because the opportunities for us and in remote working are from a global sense. Like, we deliver quite a few projects in the Americas and Asia from our offices in Limerick and Denmark without ever going to site. That's all pre-construction, of course.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, it's the stepping stones to what could be in the future. But I would say the foundation is the same. Maybe what is happening in terms of growth and people and diversity and all that has changed. Yeah, it's quite interesting in that sense. But a business plan, your old business plan that you did 8 years ago.
Barely read my handwriting.
I was going to say,
I had handwritten.
So a handwritten business plan, lovely, from what is now a digital company. I like it.
For now, it was what a digital.
I love it. Yeah.
Company, yeah.
Did you reread it at any point after that number of years and go, hasn't changed, or
oh, it has changed.
We're 40%
it's so different compared to what it used to be.
Yeah.
But my knowledge has changed. My reading has changed. My focus has changed. It's hugely changed. A completely different person. Yeah.
I would say that the business plan, the strategy, has to be also dynamic in the same way that WeGroup can make a decision on. That's a very good software. Actually, we're looking at that in terms of data, etc. It has to be dynamic as well. Otherwise, you stagnate a little.
Well, that's kind of the beauty, in terms of, there are hugely successful businesses that are co-founded and founded singly.
Yeah.
I'm delighted to have Omar on board with me in terms of, I'm delighted to do what we're doing together.
Yeah.
Right, because there's that we don't agree on everything. And
that's the whole point about it.
And we're never going to agree on everything. And that's the beauty of it, right? And we complement each other on different skill sets associated with what we're trying to do. So we really balance each other out. And we, we're both passionate about our opinions. So we will bring the conversation to a good standpoint.
We'll debate.
And then we might have a healthy break and we'll come back and we'll figure out together.
Yeah.
But we have a digital whiteboard in our office, and it's probably the most used tool. Yeah. You can go back to it, saves every day. So you can just flick back through any date that you want. Wonderful. So we can go back to, I don't know, the 1st of December. God only knows the scribbles that were on it, you know.
I think it's good to have that sparring partner. I find that hugely beneficial with myself, Kong and Ilya. We're 3 very different characters, very different backgrounds, different nationalities, everything, our experiences. You bring the trifecta to the table, then it becomes interesting. The conversation, the vision, how we do it, the debates we have, you know. I feel that it's a support function, you know, because sitting at home, again, you never switch off as a business owner, even though for mental health reasons, you should find a place or a solace, whether that's training, whether it's golf, whatever that is, find a place where your mind switches off for a moment, because it's important, but it's your business. You're constantly thinking, because that's what business owners are, you know, they're constantly trying to see what they can do. Yeah, no, but I guess it depends on the type of business as well. Yeah, you know, like if you're getting a product to market, it's different in terms of a singular co-founder. But in terms of a consultancy, you don't have the rate of growth that you have in other. No. Like it's a marathon, and you have to understand that it's a marathon, and you're going to win and you're going to lose along the way. But it will take a hell of hard work and a hell of a long time to get from what is zero to a fully functioning organization with a healthy number of employees on the books with a healthy culture. Like that's a long journey, and what makes a character in a person is the journey that they've taken to get to where they are, and to be able to learn from the good and bad within that journey. Like not everything is good. You know, there's as much and as rich badness as there is in terms of positivity. Absolutely. You know, you understand it, you acknowledge it, you're aware of it, and you utilize that resource for the next place you go. Like. Yeah, absolutely. I would say for any of the listeners out there looking to start up and are interested in a passion or something that they really, really consider would be an opportunity for them, from your experience and knowledge, like where would the people start? Where would you start? You need to evaluate yourself as a person first, and understand where you are in your life and what you can give up. Yeah. Like obviously my situation was different. There's a sacrifice. Absolutely. There's a sacrifice there. Well, absolutely. Yeah. There's a huge sacrifice. Yeah. I went through 3.5 years of torture, 7 days a week, 12, 13, 14-hour days, 17-hour days, 20-hour days, which aren't healthy. No. But that's the sacrifice that I felt I needed at that time to be able to deliver what I was trying to deliver. Yeah. Now, absolutely, it's not a sustainable sacrifice. No. But a deliverable needs to be delivered, and that is your reputation and credibility. Yeah. In terms of focus and what I was trying to achieve. But if we just go back to the question and think about the question, you know, what advice would I give, young or old, in terms of starting a business is, first of all, understand your current situation and your appetite for risk. Understand, you know, what are the financial constraints associated with what you're trying to achieve, and is there any financial constraints associated with that? And then you have to think what and why. What am I trying to sell? The next question is, am I passionate about selling that? Because if you're not passionate, you won't go through the journey. No. Because there's times when I worked, I didn't actually know I was working. I was just doing what I actually loved. Yeah. You know? And then why? What's my unique selling point within the organisation? Why am I different? Is there anyone else out there doing what I'm doing? No. Okay. No, I'm unique. Yeah. Or if there are other people out there, well, then you got to think about, why are people going to come to me? Yeah. Well, then that goes to quality. Yeah. Or it goes to your price. You know, kind of the two things. And sometimes you've got your network. That's a huge one as well, in terms of getting the leg up in terms of delivering and winning business. Yeah. And then I think about, you know, your appetite for risk will allow, and financial constraints will allow you then to start creating
revenue or how much that is or what your selling point is. You're going to understand
longevity of that period.
and your longevity that period. But you have to build a level of capital.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be huge. It just has to be what you need. And that'll allow you to figure out like a go, no go.
Yeah.
You know, am I going to invest everything into this? Do I think this is a winner?
Yeah.
And what I think when you get to that stage, you're going to have two options. You're either going to go for investment or you're just going to keep going the way you're going, depending on how healthy
if you can,
depending on how healthy your capital is at that time. Yeah. And then that would allow you, I feel like then you're a startup.
Yeah.
Because when you take that investment and then you start thinking about, right, what's my brand?
Yeah.
What's my online image?
Yeah.
What's my cultural engagement within an organization?
Yeah.
What sort of team do I want in my office?
Yeah.
Team is in the actual office style.
Yeah.
What sort of team do I want in my organization?
Yeah.
Okay, I want innovative. I want, so then you're trying to build a team that are trying to deliver. What sort of management style do we want in the business?
Yeah.
Do we want to be working? So then you get into the whole, you have the power to navigate an organization into what you feel is going to be most beneficial down the line.
I would say that it's not necessarily necessary to have the answers to every single one of those on day one.
Absolutely.
There's an evolutionary process to it. The first part, as you mentioned, has to be your appetite for risk and your affordability and taking that risk on.
Yeah.
Can you do without an income for 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, 1 week? And if you can, you're there somewhere. But then you're looking at creating that capital. Can I do without turnover within the business for 3 months, 1 month, 6 months, whatever, to sustain that development, etc. in it?
Yeah.
And it's difficult. It's difficult, especially if you've mortgages and dependents and all of that stuff, and you're looking at your outgoings and saying, well, my minimum requirement is this every month.
But a cost man talking about costs, it's very, very ironic. But what you're saying there is 100%, but there's also the flip side in terms of time.
Yeah.
So, what's my risk appetite for investing my time?
Yeah.
What's my ability to invest my time, or the logistics of actually doing that? Like, am I able to work a 4-day week and work a Friday on my business? Yeah. Am I able to work a Saturday and a Sunday and a Friday on my business for 8 months to see where I am at the end of the 8 months, or whatever that is?
Whatever the structure.
That's all. I think that all needs to be taken into consideration, while not remembering, when all else fails, you'll still have your family, your friends, your partner. So it's important not to neglect all that time, which, I definitely look back and think there was a time where I wasn't seen in my family household for a long period of time because I was 100 miles an hour every single day of the week. But it was a period of time. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. Definitely a reflection for me over the last number of years, and a change for 2024 is that giving more time to family and friends, etc. Because I think COVID as well has had an impact in this. You just get consumed sometimes with it, and the only thing that you can think about and talk about is this particular topic, which is your business, right? And COVID, unfortunately, because we were working from home and because we were kind of in that environment, we meant that we were on the whole time. And we couldn't really switch off. And coming out of COVID, I didn't realize it when I came out of COVID. I thought to myself, there was no issue with that. But when I came out of it, I kind of got the feeling that, damn, I kind of spent a whole lot of time just on the business and nothing else. And you had nothing else to talk about. And it took time to then integrate back into society. So
COVID is strange because I remember in COVID, we were approached by a lot more clients to support them because it was such a remote environment in terms of what you were trying to deliver. And it was very strange because the country was opening up on Sunday and they wanted a project to be ready to go, plan in place. What's the plan? What's the forecast? How can we bring that into cost projection, etc. Next thing closed down on Sunday. It's opening next Sunday. So then so it was a consistent churn in terms of long hours, big projects, and a focus. For us, what I was very fortunate about in that front was we actually were working on a job in Switzerland at the time. So we were deemed as a critical a critical professional working within the environment. So we were allowed travel. We were given cards. And we travelled over to Switzerland. And I remember West Clare, Dublin to London. No one asked us anything.
Yeah.
No, you weren't allowed to leave your house with 1 kilometre.
Yeah.
And we travelled over to London, and no one asked us where you were going. It was like hiding in plain sight, right?
Yeah.
And then we got to the London gate going to Switzerland. They asked us a story. But I remember we stayed in a hotel on in Solothurn, very close to our project in Switzerland.
Yeah.
And the hotel opened for us, even though the hotel was closed. And there was nobody in the hotel.
Yeah.
No receptionist, no security, no nothing.
No canteen, no kitchen.
Nothing.
Yeah. Just
and we
2 lads in a room.
2 different rooms.
2, yeah.
We stayed there for 5 weeks.
Shit.
5
That's
weeks.
isolation now.
It was tough.
Yeah.
Every evening, there was no restaurants open. The only food we had to go for was a big burrito or pizza downstairs. 5 weeks of it.
Yeah. It's all forgotten about. It's in the past. Like, that's the thing about it. But it's I guess our point there is you become so consumed by it in that period that you forget about all the good stuff, the family and the friends and the time that you need to plan for that stuff as well. Because I seen a good post there during the week where this guy sits down and plans every month, and he puts family first, parents second, then the job.
Yeah.
Because if you do it the other way around, the job will consume, the business will consume, etc.
Yeah.
So I think it's exciting getting into a new business, and anybody thinking about it, I'm a risk taker anyway. Yeah. I just go for it, see what happens.
Yeah.
You can figure it out in the end, especially if you have
similar enough. I'd say you can guess.
Yeah. Like, as you say, the certification in qualification, there's a security with that you can fall back into it if necessary. But just give it a go, because there's no regrets in trying something, but there's always regrets in not trying it.
Well, I always say there's 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
And 6 to 8 is for sleeping.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of time to focus on education, family, friends. Yeah. What your pastime is, focus on that too, and then your business as well.
Excellent.
And
excellent.
My mother always told me everything in moderation.
Yeah. It's funny. My mother says the same thing. Have they been speaking? Hang on. We'll that's a different podcast. We'll talk about that. The biggest learning from running a business, it's all about the people. That has to be.
I was just going to say that a team delivers more than a person.
Yeah, it has to be about the people. And the fact that you have to trust the people. They're the 2 big learnings. That disconnect from the technical project delivery. And, John is going to do that. Like, that's his responsibility. And if he does that at 80% of your 100%, you can't kind of get involved in that.
So one of our clients we work with, they have a tier management escalation system, tier 0 to tier 4. And they focus on removing any roadblocks for the skilled, educated, professional people to deliver in a productive environment.
Yeah.
So for me, the biggest learning is how you can strategically structure your organization to allow your people to deliver in a productive environment.
Yeah.
And, you need to respect your people in terms of, giving them time to work, not bombard people with meetings, not have people in meetings that don't need to be in meetings,
it needs to be lean,
if you have a meeting that's half an hour long, it finishes 5 minutes early and everyone gets a cup of tea and we go again. So for me, definitely it's that structure and escalation, that promoting the fact that escalation is a success. If you escalate something to me, I'm delighted. As a business owner and as someone who's supposed to be a leader, I can now help you. If you work in isolation, I don't know. And then there's a surprise. That's not promoted.
No.
But being able to remove that roadblock allows people to then be successful and elevated within their work front.
And that goes back to your single point of failure at the beginning. You as the business owner should not be the single point of failure. Look at what you do on your daily basis. If everybody's coming to you for that decision, there's an issue. You need to try and delegate that workload, that process, that decision to elsewhere. Otherwise, as your business grows, which hopefully it will, you become the challenge there. And I think that's one of the big learnings for me, surely. Yeah.
So we're both single point of failures.
We were.
No.
Excellent. But David, thank you very much for coming to speak to us today. It's been a pleasure and very interesting to hear about WeGroup, and best of luck with the future.
Delighted. Thanks very much for having me, and hopefully the journey I've had can touch or support someone or ignite someone to maybe take that leap into the industry. So.
Thanks very much for listening. There's a LinkedIn link below in the show notes. We would love to connect with you.
We hope you enjoyed it and have you with us in the next one. Thank you very much.